Captain Dong-ho was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. He had been commander of the patrol ship Soul's Pride for 8 years, and he had never heard the emergency alert sound so urgent. Something was very wrong. Captain to the bridge. The voice of his first officer, Lieutenant Yan-Su, crackled over the communication system. She sounded scared, and Yan-Su was never scared. Dong-ho ran through the corridors of his small ship. The Soul's Pride was not built for war. It was a patrol vessel designed to check on merchant ships and help lost travelers. Its weapons were meant to scare away pirates, not fight real battles. On the bridge, his crew was staring at the main screen with wide eyes. 12 massive alien ships hung in space near Earth's moon. They were unlike anything in the databases. These ships were black as night, covered in sharp angles and glowing red lights. They looked like predators. Who are they? Dong-ho asked. They're not hegemony or coalition, Yan-Su replied, checking her instruments. The computer can't identify them. But sir, they're enormous. Each one is 3 times bigger than our largest battleship. Have they made contact? Yes, sir. The message is not friendly. Dong-ho sat in his captain's chair. Put it on screen. The alien that appeared was a nightmare. Its face was like a skull covered in metal plates. Red eyes glowed in deep sockets. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding stone. Primitive humans of the 3rd planet. I am General Krath of the Vex Imperium. Your world has been chosen for conquest. You will surrender immediately or we will take it by force. You have 1 of your hours to decide. The message ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Sir, what are our orders? Asked Engineer Boram from her station. Dong-ho thought quickly. The Soul's Pride was the only Earthship in the area. All other patrol vessels were on the far side of the solar system. The main defense fleet was months away from Earth, spread out across human space. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them about our visitors. Then open a channel to the alien ships. Sir, are you going to surrender? Yan-Su asked. No, I'm going to talk. The screen showed General Krath again, but this time Dong-ho could see more of the alien bridge. Other creatures moved in the background, all wearing dark armor. Everything about them screamed danger. General Krath. This is Captain Dong-ho of Earth's patrol ship Soul's Pride. I speak for my government when I say we wish to discuss terms. Krath's metal face twisted into what might have been a smile. There are no terms, human. Only surrender or death. Your species is weak. Your technology is primitive. We have conquered 47 worlds. Yours will be 48. We are not part of the Galactic War, Dong-ho said carefully. We have no quarrel with anyone. Perhaps we can reach an agreement that benefits both sides. You speak of agreements. Krath laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You have nothing we want except your world. Your people will serve us or feed our war machines. Choose quickly. On Earth, alarms were ringing in government buildings around the world. President Dae-hyun was rushed to the emergency command center deep underground. His advisors filled the room, all talking at once. Sir, we have 12 hostile ships in our system, reported General In-soo, head of Earth's military. They've given us 1 hour to surrender. Who are they? The president asked. Unknown, sir. They call themselves the Vex Imperium. They're not in any of our databases. What about our defenses? General In-soo looked uncomfortable. Sir, we have the orbital defense platforms around Earth, some missile batteries on the moon, a few patrol ships. Against 12 ships that size. He didn't need to finish. Dr. Hae-won, the president's science advisor, spoke up. Sir, I recommend we activate the deep space protocols. Several people in the room looked confused, but President Dae-hyun nodded slowly. Not yet. Let's see what Captain Dong-ho can do. Back on the Soul's Pride, the hour was almost up. Captain Dong-ho had tried everything he could think of. He offered trade agreements, cultural exchanges, even safe passage through human space. General Krath rejected everything. Your time is finished, human. Surrender or die. Dong-ho looked around his bridge at his crew. These people had served with him for years. They were like family. Behind them was Earth, with his wife and 2 children living in the city of Busan. General Krath, I cannot surrender my world to you. If you want Earth, you'll have to take it. So be it. The Vex ships opened fire without warning. Red energy beams lanced out toward the Soul's Pride. Captain Dong-ho barely had time to order evasive action before the first beam hit his ship. The Soul's Pride exploded in a ball of fire and metal. There were no survivors. On Earth, billions of people watched the news in horror as debris from their patrol ship fell like burning rain. Then the Vex ships moved closer to the planet and began firing at the surface. The first target was New York. Ancient buildings turned to dust in seconds. Then London, Tokyo, Berlin, and a dozen other cities. The orbital defense platforms fought back, but their weapons barely scratched the alien hulls. In Busan, Dong Ho's wife and children ran for shelter as the sky turned red. They didn't make it. After 6 hours of bombardment, General Krath sent another message to Earth. Humans, you see the price of defiance. Surrender now, or we will turn your entire world into ash. In the Emergency Command Center, President Dae-hyun stood before a wall of screens showing burning cities around the world. Millions were dead. His military advisors waited for orders. Sir, General In-soo said quietly, the defense platforms are down. The moon bases are gone. We have nothing left to fight with. President Dae-hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked at Dr. Haewon. Activate all deep space protocols. Send the message, Dr. Haewon typed rapidly on her console. Across the solar system, hidden transmitters began broadcasting a signal that hadn't been used in over 50 years. Sir, what about the aliens? General In-soo asked. President Dae-hyun walked to the communications station and opened a channel to the Vex ships. When General Krath appeared on screen, the president looked him straight in his glowing red eyes. General Krath, you have made a terrible mistake. You attacked our people. You killed our defenders. You burned our cities. The president's voice was calm, but his eyes were like ice. We offered you peace. You chose war. Now you will learn why Earth stayed out of the galactic conflict. You threaten me, human. With what? Your world lies helpless before us. With justice, General, and justice is coming. President Dae-hyun cut the transmission. Around the solar system, things that had been sleeping in the dark began to wake up. Ships that had been disguised as asteroids powered up their engines. Weapons that had been hidden for decades started charging. General Krath and his Vex Imperium had made the worst mistake in their long history of conquest. They had attacked the one species in the galaxy that had been preparing for this moment for over a century. Earth had stayed out of the war not from weakness, but from wisdom, now that wisdom was about to become the aliens' nightmare. Commander Taemin stood at the large window of the Deep Space Monitoring Station, watching the stars. He had seen many things in his 20 years of service, but nothing like what was happening now. The galaxy was burning and Earth was watching from the sidelines. The war had started 10 years ago. Two massive groups of alien species were fighting each other across the stars. The hegemony of advanced worlds claimed they brought order to chaos. The Free Species Coalition said they fought for freedom. Both sides had powerful weapons that could destroy entire planets. Both sides had killed billions. Sir, we have another report, said Lieutenant Wu Young, walking up to his commander with a data pad in his hands. The young officer looked tired. They all looked tired these days. Taemin took the pad and read the numbers. Another star system had gone dark. The Kepler 442 system, home to 3 different alien species, was now nothing but floating debris and radiation. 40 billion lives gone in a matter of hours. How many does that make this month? Taemin asked, though he already knew the answer. 17 systems, sir. The war is getting worse. Dr. Sujin entered the observation deck, her lab coat wrinkled from long hours of work. She was the station's chief expert on alien cultures and biology. If anyone could make sense of this madness, it was her. The patterns are changing, she said without greeting. Both sides are getting more desperate. They're using weapons they swore they'd never use. What kind of weapons? Wu Young asked. Sujin pulled up a hologram showing the remains of a planet. This was Velcon Prime yesterday. Home to 8 billion Velconian people. They had cities that floated in the clouds. Art that could make you cry, music that touched your soul. She paused. Now it's a ball of molten rock. Someone used a Starkiller missile. The 3 humans stood in silence. Starkiller missiles were banned by every civilized species in the galaxy. They didn't just destroy planets. They made stars unstable, sometimes causing them to explode and wipe out entire solar systems. Why don't we help? Wu Young asked. We have ships. We have weapons. We could make a difference. Taemin looked at the young officer. Because that's not who we are. President Dae-hyun has made it clear. Earth stays neutral. We watch, we learn, but we don't fight. But people are dying. Yes, they are. And if we join one side, even more people will die. Wars have a way of growing bigger when new fighters join in. Dr. Sujin nodded. The commander is right. Besides, what could we really do? We have maybe 50 ships that could fight in space. The hegemony has 10,000. The coalition has 12,000. We'd be like a drop of water in an ocean. Admiral Hyun Woo's voice came over the communication system. All senior staff to the main briefing room. We have visitors. The 3 officers made their way through the station's corridors. The Deep Space Monitoring Station was built into a large asteroid at the edge of Earth's solar system. It was hidden from most sensors, allowing humans to watch the galaxy without being noticed. In the briefing room, Admiral Hyun Woo stood next to 2 very different alien beings. One was tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. The other was shorter with thick fur and large eyes. Both wore fancy clothes that showed they were important. "This is Ambassador Kelthros from the Hegemony," the Admiral said, pointing to the blue alien, "and Ambassador Yilit from the Coalition." He pointed to the furry one. Kelthros spoke first. His voice was deep and smooth. "Humans of Earth, we come to you with a great offer. Join the Hegemony, and we will share our technology with you. Your people will live for thousands of years. Your ships will travel faster than light. Your worlds will know peace under our protection." Yilit stepped forward, her voice high and musical. "Do not listen to these tyrants. They speak of peace, but they rule through fear. Join the Coalition, and we will help you build a true democracy. Free species working together, sharing knowledge and resources as equals." Taman watched the 2 aliens carefully. He had studied both species for years. The Hegemony races were advanced but controlling. They liked to be in charge of everything. The Coalition species valued freedom but often couldn't agree on anything, making them weak when quick decisions were needed. Admiral Hyun Woo remained calm. "We appreciate your offers, but Earth's position has not changed. We will remain neutral in your conflict." Kelthros's forearms moved in what humans had learned was a sign of frustration. "You cannot stay neutral forever. This war will end with one side victorious. When that happens, the winners will remember who helped them and who did not." "Is that a threat?" Dr. Sujin asked. "It is reality," Kelthros replied. "The galaxy is changing. Small worlds that try to stay alone will be swept away by the tide of history." Yilit looked sad. "We do not threaten, but Kelthros speaks some truth. When this war ends, the galaxy will be very different. It would be better for your people to be part of that change rather than victims of it." After the aliens left, the human officers sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Admiral Hyun-woo spoke. "Earth Command has been getting messages like this every day for 2 years. Both sides want us to join them. Both sides promise us wonderful things. Both sides hint at terrible things if we refuse. What do you think will happen?" Woo Young asked. The Admiral looked out at the stars. "I think this war will burn itself out eventually. Wars always do. The question is how much of the galaxy will be left when it ends." Taman stood up. "There's something else. Our long-range sensors picked up a new signal yesterday. A ship that doesn't match either side's technology." "Pirates?" Sujin asked. "Maybe. Or maybe someone else is taking advantage of the chaos." Taman pulled up a star map. "The signal came from here, near the edge of our sensor range. It was scanning our system. Scanning for what? Unknown. But it was definitely interested in Earth." The meeting ended, but the questions remained. Earth had stayed out of the galaxy's greatest war, watching from the shadows while civilizations rose and fell. The humans told themselves they were being wise, staying safe while others fought and died. But in the darkness between stars, something else was watching Earth. Something that saw the small blue planet not as a neutral observer but as easy prey. The war that had consumed the galaxy was about to come home, and when it did, the aliens would learn that Earth had stayed out of their war for a very good reason. General Krath stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the blue world below. The human planet called Earth looked peaceful now that the bombing had stopped. Smoke rose from the burning cities, and he felt satisfied. Another conquest was almost complete. General, his second-in-command, reported, "We're detecting some unusual energy readings from the planet's surface." "Unusual how?" "Unknown, sir. The readings are coming from multiple locations. Underground facilities that weren't there during our first scans." Krath waved a clawed hand. "Humans hiding in holes. Natural behavior for prey animals. Ignore it." But deep beneath the earth, things were moving. In hidden bunkers that had been carved from solid rock, General Insu walked through corridors that most humans didn't know existed. The walls hummed with power, and the air itself seemed to vibrate with energy. "How long until full activation?" he asked Dr. Haewon, who was checking readings on a massive control panel. 30 minutes, sir. All systems are coming online. It's been 50 years since we ran a full test. Will it work? Dr. Haywan smiled. Oh, it will work. The question is whether the aliens are ready for it. Above ground, people in the surviving cities watched the sky with fear and anger. The Vex ships hung there like dark clouds, promising more destruction. But some people noticed strange things happening. Military vehicles that they had never seen before were moving through the streets. Soldiers in armor that looked more advanced than anything on the news were taking positions. Captain Ji-hoon sat in the cockpit of his fighter, running through final system checks. His ship didn't look like the fighters shown in movies or recruitment videos. It was smaller, sleeker, and covered in materials that seemed to bend light around them. "Phoenix Squadron, this is Control," came the voice in his headset. "You are cleared for launch. Show them what Earth has been building while they played their games." "Understood, Control. Phoenix Squadron launching." 12 fighter ships rose from hidden bases around the world. They moved silently through Earth's atmosphere, invisible to the Vex sensors. To General Krath's instruments, the sky looked empty. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Sergeant Yoon-ji checked her equipment one more time. Her patrol had been waiting in the darkness for hours, floating in spacesuits that made them invisible to most sensors. Around her, the mining station she had called home for 3 years was transforming. The rocky exterior was falling away, revealing a massive military shipyard. Dozens of ships that had been disguised as Space Orcs were powering up their engines. The mining colonies that aliens had ignored for decades were actually Earth's hidden fleet. "All stations, this is Admiral Sung-ho," came the voice over the communication system. "Operation Homecoming is now active. Show them what humans do when someone hurts our family." General Krath was studying reports from his ground teams when his sensor officer spoke up. "Sir, I'm detecting multiple energy signatures around the planet. Ships are powering up. Impossible. We destroyed all their ships. Sir, these readings suggest at least 50 vessels, possibly more." Krath moved to the sensor station and stared at the display. Ships were appearing on his screens, but they hadn't been there moments before. It was as if they were materializing from nothing. Where did they come from? "Unknown, sir." They seemed to be using some kind of stealth technology. On Earth, President Dae-hyun stood in a command center that was far more advanced than the one he had been in during the attack. Banks of screens showed views from around the solar system. Hidden bases were revealing themselves. Disguised ships were dropping their camouflage, and weapons that had been sleeping for decades were waking up. "Sir, all systems report ready," General Insu said. "We have 47 warships in position, 15 fighter squadrons ready to launch, and the planetary defense grid is fully powered." "What about the enhanced soldiers?" "Major Kyung-mi's units are in position around the globe. The bio-enhancement program has been running for 20 years, sir. Our people are ready," President Dae-hyun nodded. "For 50 years, while the galaxy tore itself apart in endless wars, Earth had been watching and learning. They had seen the mistakes other species made. They had studied every weapon, every tactic, every strategy used in the galactic conflicts, and they had built something different. While other species focused on bigger guns and stronger armor, humans had focused on not being seen. While aliens built massive fleets to intimidate enemies, humans had built smart ships that could hide and strike without warning. While other worlds trained soldiers to be strong, humans had created soldiers who were fast, smart, and nearly unstoppable. "Open a channel to the Vex ships," the president ordered. General Krath's ugly face appeared on the screen, but now he looked confused instead of confident. "General Krath, I told you that you made a mistake. Now I'm going to explain what that mistake was. You have some hidden ships, human. Amusing, but futile. We still outnumber you." "Numbers aren't everything, General. You see, while your people and the other aliens have been fighting each other, we've been studying all of you. We know how you think. We know how you fight. We know your weaknesses. You know nothing." President Dae-hyun smiled coldly. "We know that Vex command ships always keep their main reactors in the rear section. We know that your armor is strong against energy weapons but weak against kinetic projectiles. We know that your communications depend on a central hub that can be disrupted. And we know that you've been getting sloppy because you've been conquering primitive worlds for so long." "Impossible. You are primitives yourselves." "No, General. We just let you think we were." The first human attack came from Captain Ji-hoon's fighter squadron. The small ships appeared on General Krath's sensors for just a moment before launching their weapons. But these weren't the crude missiles or energy beams that other species used. These were smart projectiles that could change direction, think for themselves, and find the weakest point in any target. The rear section of Krath's command ship exploded, knocking out main power and communications. Across the Vex fleet, other ships suffered similar attacks from enemies they couldn't see or track. "Return fire!" Krath screamed, but his weapons couldn't target what they couldn't detect. From the asteroid belt, Admiral Sung Ho's hidden fleet emerged. These weren't the massive battleships that other species built. These were sleek, fast ships designed to work together like a pack of hunters. They moved in perfect coordination, each ship knowing exactly what the others were doing. Major Kyung-mi and her enhanced soldiers struck at the same time. They had been hidden near the Vex ships that were trying to land ground troops. These soldiers moved faster than normal humans, thought quicker, and could survive damage that would kill ordinary people. They tore through Vex landing parties like wolves among sheep. In 30 minutes, half of General Krath's fleet was destroyed or disabled. The rest were trying to retreat, but human ships were faster and smarter. "General," his sensor officer said, "we're receiving surrender terms from the humans." "Terms? What terms?" President Dae-hyun's voice came over the communication system, calm and steady. "General Krath, your fleet is finished. Your ground forces are captured or destroyed. Your invasion has failed. I'm offering you one chance to surrender and save the lives of your remaining crews." Krath looked around his damaged bridge. Half his officers were dead or wounded. Emergency lights flickered in the darkness. His mighty fleet, which had conquered nearly 50 worlds, was being torn apart by humans they had thought were primitives. "How?" he whispered. "Because, General, Earth didn't stay out of the Galactic War from fear. We stayed out because we were preparing for something much more important. We were preparing to end it." General Krath realized too late that his empire had made a terrible miscalculation. The humans had never been prey. They had been predators, waiting patiently for the right moment to hunt. General Krath's remaining ships limped through space toward the Vex stronghold at Mordax Prime. Of the 12 vessels that had attacked Earth, only 4 survived the journey. The rest were either destroyed or captured by the humans and their impossible technology. Krath could not understand what had happened. His species had conquered 47 worlds. They had enslaved entire civilizations. They had weapons that could crack planets and armor that could stop starfire. Yet the humans had torn through his fleet like it was made of paper. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a message from the Vex High Command." Supreme Commander Vorth appeared on the damaged screen. His face was even more frightening than Krath's, covered in scars from 1,000 battles. "Krath, explain your failure." "Supreme Commander, the humans were not what they appeared to be. They have technology beyond our understanding, ships that cannot be detected, weapons that think for themselves, soldiers that move like demons. Impossible. Our intelligence showed them to be primitives." "Our intelligence was wrong, sir. They have been hiding their true strength. I request immediate reinforcement. Send the Grand Fleet." Vorth's eyes glowed brighter. "The Grand Fleet? For one small world? Supreme Commander, if we do not stop them now, they will come for us. These humans are not like the other species we have conquered. They are dangerous." Meanwhile, in Earth's secret command center, President Dae-hyun was meeting with his military leaders. The victory over the Vex had been total, but intelligence reports suggested this was just the beginning. "How many ships do they have at their main base?" he asked Captain So Young, his best intelligence officer. "Our captured prisoners say at least 200 vessels, sir. The Vex Empire is much larger than we thought. They control 17 star systems and have enslaved dozens of species." Admiral Sung Ho leaned forward. "Sir, I recommend we strike immediately. They'll be expecting us to celebrate our victory and relax. If we hit them while they're still confused, we can end this quickly." "What about the other powers in the galaxy?" Dr. Hae-won asked. "The hegemony and the coalition are still watching us." President Dae-hyun pulled up a star map showing the current positions of all major fleets. "Actually, both sides have been sending us messages every hour since the battle. They want to ally with us now that they've seen what we can do." "Do we need allies?" General Insu asked. "Not to fight the Vex, but to build something better afterward, yes." The president made his decision. "Admiral Sung Ho, prepare the fleet for Operation Justice. We're going to liberate every world the Vex have enslaved." "Sir, that's a massive undertaking. It could take months." "Then we better get started." 3 days later, The human fleet appeared at the edge of the Mordak system. Admiral Xiong-ho commanded 60 ships, each one designed with lessons learned from studying decades of galactic warfare. Unlike the massive, slow vessels favored by other species, human ships were fast, smart, and worked together like a single organism. Supreme Commander Vorth watched the approaching fleet from his command station on Mordak's Prime. The planet was a fortress world, covered in defensive weapons and protected by the largest Vex fleet ever assembled. 200 ships against their 60, Vorth told his officers. This time numbers will matter, but Captain So Young had not been idle during the journey to Mordax. Her intelligence teams had been intercepting Vex communications and learning everything they could about the enemy. She had discovered something very important about how the Vex Empire worked. "Admiral," she reported to Xiong-ho, "I've found their weakness. The entire Vex fleet is controlled from a central command node on the planet's surface. If we can destroy that node, their ships will be confused and unable to coordinate. How do we get through their defenses to reach it?" "We don't go through them, sir. We go around them." The battle began with the Vex fleet moving to surround the human ships. It looked like a classic tactic. Use superior numbers to overwhelm the enemy. But Admiral Xiong-ho had studied this exact scenario in hundreds of war games. "All ships execute pattern shadow strike," he commanded. The human fleet suddenly scattered in what looked like panic. Vex commanders smiled, thinking the primitive humans were running away. But instead of fleeing, the human ships activated their stealth systems and disappeared from sensors. "Where did they go?" Vorth demanded. "Unknown, sir. They just vanished." What the Vex didn't know was that human ships could become completely invisible, not just to sensors, but to the naked eye. While Vorth's fleet searched empty space, human vessels were moving through the Vex formation like ghosts. Major Kyung-mi led a team of enhanced soldiers in a boarding action unlike anything seen in galactic warfare. Instead of attacking the Vex ships from outside, her teams used teleportation technology to appear directly inside enemy vessels. The Vex were trained to repel boarding parties that came through airlocks or cut through hulls. They were not prepared for enemies that appeared in the middle of their bridges, moved faster than their eyes could follow, and seemed to know exactly where every critical system was located. One by one, Vex ships went silent as human boarding teams captured or disabled them. The great fleet that had conquered dozens of worlds found itself being torn apart from within. "Sir, we've lost 40% of the fleet," a Vex officer reported to Vorth. "The humans are inside our ship somehow." "Impossible. Deploy all ground forces. Protect the command node." But it was too late. Captain Ji-hoon's fighter squadron had already penetrated the planetary defenses, using the same stealth technology that made their ships invisible. They struck the command node from 6 different directions at once, their smart weapons finding and destroying every backup system. Without the command node, the Vex fleet fell into chaos. Ships crashed into each other. Weapons fired at their own allies. The precise military machine that had terrorized the galaxy became a confused mess in minutes. Supreme Commander Vorth found himself alone on his command bridge as human soldiers appeared around him. These weren't the weak primitives he had expected. They moved like predators, their enhanced bodies allowing them to react faster than any Vex warrior. "Surrender," said Major Kyung-mi, her voice calm but deadly serious. "Your fleet is finished. Your empire is over." Vorth looked around at his captured bridge, at the burning remains of his fleet visible through the windows, at the humans who had outsmarted and outfought his most powerful forces. "How?" he asked. "Because we learned from your mistakes," Kyung-mi replied. "You got lazy conquering weak worlds. You forgot how to fight real enemies. We never forgot how to learn." As the Vex Empire fell, something else was happening across the galaxy. The species that had been enslaved by the Vex were rising up. They had been waiting for someone strong enough to challenge their oppressors, and the humans had given them hope. Admiral Xiong-ho received reports from across Vex space. On Talitha, the enslaved Talithians had seized their cities. On Corvus, the imprisoned Corvani were breaking out of labor camps. On 17 worlds, billions of beings were tasting freedom for the first time in decades. "Sir," Captain So Young reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from Vex commanders throughout the Empire. They want to negotiate terms." "No negotiations," Admiral Xiong-ho replied. "Only justice. Every enslaved world gets its freedom. Every Vex war criminal faces trial. Every species they oppressed gets to help decide their fate. The message went out across the galaxy on frequencies monitored by both the hegemony and the coalition. Earth had not just defeated the Vex Empire, they had liberated it. They had shown that there was another way to handle conflicts, not through endless war, but through swift justice followed by healing. Ambassador Kelthros of the hegemony sent an urgent message to his government. The humans are not what we thought. They may be the key to ending our war. Ambassador Yillet of the coalition sent a similar message. These humans fight not for conquest, but for justice. We need to ally with them immediately. But President Daehyun had bigger plans than just ending one empire or choosing sides in an old war. He was thinking about what kind of galaxy he wanted his children to inherit. The hunt was over. Now it was time to build something better. 6 months after the fall of the Vex Empire, Ambassador Minho stood before the largest gathering of alien species in galactic history. Representatives from 200 different worlds filled the Great Hall on the neutral moon of Sanctus. Some had been enemies for decades. Others had never met before. All of them were here because of what humans had accomplished. Fellow beings of the galaxy, Minho began, his voice carried by translators to every species present. We gather today not as conquerors and conquered, not as superior and inferior, but as equals seeking a better future. In the audience, Ambassador Kelthros of the hegemony sat next to Ambassador Yillet of the coalition. 6 months ago, they had been bitter enemies. Today they were working together to end their ancient war. The human proposal is simple, Minho continued. No more empires built on the suffering of others. No more wars that consume entire civilizations. No more strong preying on the weak. Fleet Admiral Taman watched from the side of the hall. He had been promoted after leading the combined human-alien forces that finished liberating the last Vex-controlled worlds. The operation had been unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of occupying conquered territories, the humans had immediately turned control back to the liberated species. What makes you think this will work? Called out a representative from the Zephyrian collective. The galaxy has always been ruled by the strong. That is the natural way. General Hyejin stepped forward to answer. She had led the liberation forces that freed 12 worlds from Vex control. Her enhanced soldiers had become legends among the enslaved species who had fought alongside them. Honored Zephyrian, strength is not about who can destroy the most planets or enslave the most people. True strength is about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Building instead of destroying. Creating peace instead of war. Easy words from someone who just won a great victory, the Zephyrian replied. But what happens when the next crisis comes? When resources become scarce? When species disagree about territory or trade? President Daehyun rose from his seat. The human leader had aged in the past months, but his eyes were still sharp and determined. Honored representatives, let me tell you why Earth stayed out of your war for so long. We had a choice. We could have picked a side, added our strength to one faction or another. We could have tried to build our own empire while you were distracted. We could have hidden in our corner of space and hoped the fighting would pass us by. He paused, looking around the hall at faces that represented dozens of different species. Instead, we chose to prepare, not for conquest, but for the moment when we could help end the suffering. We spent 50 years watching, learning, understanding what was wrong with how the galaxy worked. And we discovered something important. What did you discover? Asked a voice from the crowd. That peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is having systems in place to resolve conflicts without war. Peace is everyone having a voice, not just the strongest. Peace is justice that applies equally to all species, no matter how powerful they are. The hall was silent as President Daehyun's words were translated into hundreds of languages. The humans propose a new galactic council, Ambassador Minho announced. Not ruled by the strongest empires, but governed by representatives of all member worlds. With laws that protect the weak from the strong. With peacekeeping forces that prevent wars instead of fighting them. And who will lead this council? Ambassador Kelthros asked. Who will command these peacekeeping forces? No one species, President Daehyun replied. Leadership will rotate. Decisions will be made by vote. And the peacekeeping forces will be volunteers from all member worlds working together. What about species who refuse to join? Ambassador Yillet asked. General Hyejin answered. They will be free to remain independent as long as they do not threaten other worlds. But if they choose to conquer or enslave others, she smiled grimly. Well, you've seen what happens to bullies in this new galaxy. Over the following weeks, the representatives debated and argued and planned. Some species were eager to join the new order. Others were suspicious. A few tried to form their own alliances to oppose human influence, but the momentum was unstoppable. Too many worlds had tasted freedom after generations of oppression. Too many species had seen what cooperation could accomplish. The former slaves of the Vex Empire became the strongest supporters of the new council, and their voices carried weight with other oppressed peoples. Dr. Jae Sung, who had spent years studying alien weapons technology, found himself leading a new project, converting weapons of war into tools of peace. Vex battleships became cargo vessels to carry food and supplies to devastated worlds. Hegemony war factories were retooled to build hospitals and schools. Coalition battle stations became research centers focused on improving life instead of ending it. Captain So Young established the new Galactic Intelligence Service, but with a difference. Instead of spying on member worlds, the service focused on identifying threats to peace and helping resolve conflicts before they became wars. The first major test came 8 months after the Sanctus Accords were signed. The Rigelian Republic declared war on their neighbors, the Centauri Federation, over mining rights in a disputed system. This is how it starts, some observers said, the first crack in the new peace. But President Dae-hyun saw it differently. This is our chance to prove the system works. Instead of allowing the two species to fight, the Galactic Council sent a peacekeeping fleet to the disputed system, not to choose sides, but to prevent violence while mediators worked out a solution. The fleet was commanded by Admiral Seung-ho, but his officers came from a dozen different worlds. Humans, former hegemony species, ex-coalition members, and even some reformed Vex worked side by side. Rigelian Republic ships, this is Admiral Seung-ho of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. You are ordered to power down your weapons and withdraw to neutral space while talks continue. Human, you have no authority here, the Rigelian commander replied. This is our space. Actually, both the Republic and the Federation signed the Sanctus Accords, Admiral Seung-ho said calmly. You agreed to let the Council mediate disputes. We're here to enforce that agreement. The Rigelian fleet was larger than the peacekeeping force, but size wasn't everything anymore. Human technology had been shared with all Council members. Every ship in the peacekeeping fleet had advanced stealth systems, smart weapons, and enhanced coordination systems. More importantly, the Rigelians knew what had happened to the Vex Empire. They knew that the galaxy's new peacekeepers didn't lose battles. Admiral, the Rigelian commander said after a long pause, we will comply with Council mediation. The crisis ended without a single shot being fired. The disputed system was eventually divided between the two species, with profits from mining operations funding development projects for both worlds. News of the successful peacekeeping mission spread across the galaxy. Other potential conflicts were resolved through mediation instead of war. The threat of Galactic Council intervention became a powerful deterrent to aggression. 1 year after the Battle of Earth, Commander Tae-min stood again at the observation deck of his monitoring station. But now, instead of watching distant wars, he was coordinating peace missions across the galaxy. Lieutenant Woo Young, now promoted to captain, brought him a report. Sir, we've received requests for assistance from 6 different systems this week. Trade disputes, territorial disagreements, resource allocation conflicts. All being handled through the proper channels? Yes, sir. No shooting, no threats of war. Just civilized beings working out their problems like adults. Taemin smiled. It's almost boring, isn't it? Yes, sir. Beautifully boring. Dr. Sujin entered the observation deck, no longer studying the aftermath of battles but coordinating cultural exchange programs between former enemies. The latest reports from the liberated worlds are very encouraging, she said. Education levels are rising, poverty is declining, and interspecies cooperation is at an all-time high. Any problems? Taemin asked. Nothing serious. Some of the older generations still remember the bad times and don't trust the new system. But the young people on most worlds are embracing the changes. Through the observation deck's large window, they could see Earth in the distance, still blue and green and beautiful. But now it was no longer a hidden world on the galaxy's edge. It was the heart of a new kind of civilization. Do you think it will last? Woo Young asked. Taemin considered the question. Nothing lasts forever, but we've built something strong. Something that can adapt and grow. And most importantly, we've shown the galaxy that there's a better way to live. What if someone tries to destroy it? What if a new threat emerges? Then we'll handle it, Sujin said confidently. Together, all of us. That's what makes this system different from the old empires. It's not built on the strength of one species, but on the cooperation of many. As they watched, a convoy of ships passed by Earth, heading for the outer systems. The vessels carried supplies, medical equipment, teachers, and engineers to worlds that were still recovering from centuries of oppression. The crews included humans, former hegemony citizens, ex-coalition members, and even some reformed Vex. You know what the most amazing thing is? Taman said. What's that, sir?